Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Zoe,
I'm Mark.
and we are the Board Adventurers. So for today's video, we are going to discuss the Summoner Wars app, which was recently launched a couple weeks ago. We were provided full access by our friends over at Plathead Games, so thank you guys for providing us access. If you're interested in our thoughts on Summoner Wars as a board game, whether or not we like it, we did do a link to the game review of that game. I'm going to include the link down below if you're interested in our thoughts on the game. But for this video, we really want to discuss how the app functions, whether the app works for new Summoner Wars players, whether it works for people who are really already into the game, and basically whether or not it's worth downloading and playing. What do you think of the app so far from what you tried?
App is pretty good. It's very reminiscent of what you're getting with, if you set up the board for actual Summoner Wars. So you'll when you start in, you could either do like a multiplayer online, you could do single player, and then you could play against a computer.
Yeah.
Or you can even pick a deck and then go into like a small storyline. I just started with the goblins.
Yeah.
I picked Sneaks because to me that was the one I was the most familiar with. And then I ran through his storyline. So it was about, I want to say 5 to 6 different scenarios, and you'd basically play either against parts of your own deck, or parts of another deck. And then as you progress in the scenario, you would add more cards into your deck that you can use, which was pretty good. I was pretty enthralled by the storyline. It was definitely difficult for me, at least. It was getting some synergy in my cards when I knew I didn't have a full deck with me.
Yeah.
And then playing against other factions that kind of like mitigated against me better. But it was definitely a good puzzle. I definitely found myself, trying to cycle through like what is my optimal move.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. Like,
Okay.
What do you think?
Nice. I liked it. In terms of just as an app in general, I kind of like the way this one is built out in terms of it has like a storyline.
Yeah.
Summoner Wars is not a game that when you bring it to the table, there's like a storyline or do anything. It's just a 1v1 kind of multiplayer game.
Right.
And that's it. There's no like story off of it. I like that the app gives it sort of a storyline to really sink into.
Yeah.
I found myself, to be quite honest, kind of like skipping through some of the story. Like I didn't need it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it was cool to have that as an option as an app.
Yeah.
So I like the inclusion of that. Well, I found myself more just kind of going against the computer instead of just doing a story.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Same.
One thing the app does do that I really like is that one, it's a free to play app, and it has this thing where you can get a free deck every week.
Yeah, that's actually one of the more important parts of it. Is I think they offer you 6 free-to-play decks, and then it cycles out after a certain time.
Yeah.
Like I know one of the ones that I played is this the Deepwood Groaks. So we have the deck like in person, but I've never played it. I got to try it on the app and kind of see how it plays out without having to physically set up the game, which is convenient in itself.
Yeah, that's what I figure I'm going to be using the app more, because you own Summoner Wars, I don't.
I do.
But you go through a lot of the decks, like purchase a lot of the decks, and I really want to use it to learn more about decks as they come out, as opposed to waiting for it.
There is a tutorial in the game.
Yeah.
I didn't try it.
The tutorial is actually really good.
Yeah,
so
you tried it?
I play more app-based games than you do.
Yes.
And the tutorial it runs the gamut on whether or not it's a good tutorial. It actually teaches you the game. Poor tutorial. Sometimes there's no tutorial at all.
Yeah.
So some games I played would just jump you into the game.
Right.
And I have to like read it on my own to learn how to play the game before I even get into the app. So first thing I did, I know how to play Summoner Wars, but first thing I did was check out the tutorial to see how efficient it is. It does a great job of teaching you how to play the game.
Does it go through different like decks, or is it just one deck? Because decks play so differently in Summoner Wars.
Yeah.
Like some of them you go heavily into boosting, whereas some use the lightning bolt action a lot. Does it like kind of like tell you how to like kind of go inside with those?
It goes through a match. Like you start off and you're in a match already, and the deck is already chosen for you. and it's going through the rounds and telling you how to do certain things. It's like, okay, now you're gonna do this, and this is what you're gonna look out for.
Right.
And it goes through maybe like a third of the match.
Okay.
And then the rest of the match, the rest of 2/3 of it, you're just doing it on your own. So it starts you off. This is how you play the game. Now play the rest of this match. And then at the end of the video, that's kind of how it works.
That's kind of cool.
That's kind of like how I like the tutorials to go. I know there's a lot of games. I know the Everdell app and the Root app does something similar where it like teaches you slowly.
I see.
And then lets you play the game.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Which I enjoy.
Yeah, like I didn't play the tutorial because I knew enough about the Summoner Wars like rule, like and then round structure. But I'm curious as to like how they kind of like explain like the lightning bolt for like certain factions, and then also the boosting, because like I know for Savannah elves they use boost way differently than say like the Deepwood Groaks do. It's like their boosting is like it gets complicated, but I imagine that's hard to build into just a simple tutorial that's trying to teach someone, hey, this is the simplest way to learn this game.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and I should have done more to check to see if this is kind of something that's available. That there's like deck-specific tutorials. It doesn't have to be in depth as the regular deck, but it's more of like, this is what makes this deck interesting. Yeah. And this is what you can do with it before we get into the match. Yeah. So you don't just go into a match and just kind of try to figure it out.
Right. Yeah. Because like I think that was one of the things that I had trouble with Deepwood Groaks, is that I didn't really know how they played. And so when I go into like playing with them, they use heavy boost. So they boost different units. Yeah. And a lot of the times the app, what I've come to find, especially with like sneaks, whenever I like do a movement, whenever it proctors another card, sometimes it kind of automatically goes to like that option. Yeah. As opposed to like a prompt that says, hey, you can do this. Do you want to do this?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like, I had a little trouble with it early when I was playing the Goblin storyline. Was that there was a card called a Clinger, and so whenever I moved a unit that was next to that Clinger, it automatically like proctored the Clinger to move with it. Gotcha. But I also could have chosen not to move it. I kind of wish that like had given me a little prompt, but after I got it, I understood. It's like, okay, this is how it works. It's just a matter of like knowing what what the app is trying to get you to do easier.
Yeah, I wonder if they could do something where it's kind of like when you cycle through the free-to-play decks every week and you get a new deck and it does like a quick tutorial.
I mean, like,
before you even started.
Yeah, it'd be great if like somehow like the newer decks could have a tutorial as to like what you're looking for to do and how to use it. But again, that's like a very small nitpick.
Yeah, it's very nitpicking. We love the Summoner Wars game already. Yeah. And the app is pretty good. What do you think of the UI of the app?
I like it. And I think the map is pretty good for what it is. Like it sort of shows you the entire board kind of like laid out. Yeah. I will say like this is like, again, just a small nitpick, but like the text sometimes on these cards can be kind of small.
I noticed that too, yeah.
And when you click on cards, it's like you kind of like, you really have to read it, kind of like zoom in. But like it is what it is, because like there's a lot of information on the card sometimes.
Yeah, this really only impacts you when you learn the deck for the first time. Yeah. Once you know what each card does, it's kind of, but the way the nature of the game is like you get a deck and you have to learn it.
Yeah, and so one thing I do like about it too is that once you've completed an attack, you can't just go back on your attack to try to reiterate.
That's true. Yeah,
there was a point where I had finished my attack phase and realized that I had an additional unit I could attack with, but I couldn't go back and just redo that. I had to like kind of take it as it was. I'm like, I get why they did that.
Yeah, it was interesting playing this game that way, because the same thing happened to me, because when we played Summoner Wars, there's a lot of like, you're going for such an optimal move that you're doing something and go like, I'm gonna go back and do something.
Yeah, it's like, oh wait, I'm just gonna reverse that. But like that, I think it does it very intuitively.
Cool. So in terms of like, do you think this is a game, is an app worth downloading for people who are new to Summoner Wars and for people who already play Summoner Wars?
I would hesitate to say that if you are new to Summoner Wars, you should get this app. Hesitant, because I think this is more for people that already have Summoner Wars. They have an easier way to play it, and if they have new factions coming out, this is a good way to try it to see if you want to buy it. So I would lean to, you already have Summoner Wars, like the card game. I feel like to me, I'm still of the mindset that I like playing this more in person. But this is a good way to test out new decks. If somehow you hear one, you want to see if you really want to buy it before you just go out and utterly buy it straight.
It's funny, I'm kind of the opposite with little. I think this really works for people who are new to Summoner Wars and who play Summoner Wars.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a download. The main reason being, I think we had some nitpicks on some of the tutorial aspects of the game, but I still think this is one of the better tutorials in board game apps.
Okay.
Like there's some apps that are really bad at teaching you the game, and I don't think this is one of them. So I think if you're interested in Summoner Wars, and Summoner Wars is pretty big investment. So the fun of it is getting additional decks.
That's fair.
So if you're not sure if you want to play this is a free-to-play game, so you don't have a big cost investment there.
Yeah.
Download it, check it out, see if you're interested in. And if you're a seasoned Summoner Wars player, like we are to an extent, this is good for checking out new decks, which is probably the primary use of it for us. Probably going to be going forward. So I just think it's an easy download, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so too. I like it's less. It's not very. You don't put much investment into it. But if you do get curious about like either a new deck or like playing the game itself, this is a good way to try it out.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's our thoughts on the Summoner Wars app. Let us know your thoughts on the app below. Whether or not you get a chance to download it and check it out. Really want to see what other people think of the game. But we'll see you on the next adventure. I'm Zoe.
I'm Mark.